Hey everybody, Eric from All Things MSP here. Just wanted to let you know that this is a pre-recorded session tonight because I am at CompTIA Community Council's forums this week. But this episode I pulled specifically from the archives based on everybody's response to the survey about one of the things they wanted to have more information about was talent, hiring, people, that kind of thing. So this is a conversation I had with Todd Billiar from IT by Design back earlier last year. Oh, and if you haven't filled out the survey, if you could please do that for us. It really does help us form what we're going to be doing in the community for the next year. Go to atmsp.link/survey.
What's up, everybody? Justin here, host of the All Things MSP podcast, and I want to take a few seconds here to talk to you about ACES Conference. ACES Conference is a business-focused conference for MSPs with topics ranging from marketing to management, human resources to business strategy, and social media, legal, all of those things that help you grow your business. Now, ACES Conference is strictly content-driven. It is not sponsor-driven. Yes, we will have sponsors there. You will learn about new vendors and things like that, but it is not driven by them. We want you to grow and elevate your MSP, and that's what it's all about. This year, ACES Conference is celebrating its 10th year, and we're glad to be back in person May 15th and 16th in Salt Lake City, Utah. Tickets are available now at acesconf.com. That's ACESCONF.com. And use the coupon code ATMSP to get 10% off. If you have questions, find me on the All Things MSP Facebook group. That's facebook.com/group.
Do you have files or email to move from one platform to another? Or maybe you're doing a digital transformation from on-premise servers to the cloud. Check out MoveBot, one of our premier sponsors here at All Things MSP.
We'll see you there.
Moving files and email during a transition, onboarding, or upgrade can be time-consuming, tedious, and be derailed by surprises and risks. Reduce your technician workload and increase migration reliability with MoveBot. Check out MoveBot using our special link, which you can find in the description of this post, or just go directly to atmsp.link/MoveBot. SuperOps is actively engaged in helping all MSPs improve their business. If you did not attend one of their Super Summits in 2023, all is not lost. They've taken some of the great content shared at those events and turned them into ebooks. The first one is called Skyrocketing MSP Revenue from 1 million to 10 million Do's and Don'ts with Dave Patel from Build Right. It contains 12 pages of helpful tips and guidance for MSPs to grow their revenue. Check it out. There's a link in the description, or go to atmsp.link/SuperOps ebook 1. A big thanks to SuperOps for sharing this kind of content with the community. All right, everybody, welcome back once again to All Things MSP. Just got to make sure that my audio meter is moving because, I've done that before. Anyway, got a great show for you tonight. Got somebody who's going to talk to us, about something that is top of mind for most MSP owners that I talk to today, and probably should be top of mind for most anybody who works for an MSP, in an MSP, or is even a vendor for an MSP, because this stuff matters. We're going to talk about workforce and talent tonight in the MSP space. And of course, I have Todd Billiar with us to talk about that. Before we get started, though, have to mention a couple of things, of course. If you're watching this anywhere but Facebook, be aware that we are first and foremost a Facebook group. So head on over there and join the group. We do live stream this on LinkedIn as well. So go ahead over there and follow All Things MSP. It's a company page over there. You'll find it. I have confidence in your searching ability. And then last but not least, if you are watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go ahead and like, subscribe, and ring the bell. If you're not watching this on YouTube, there is some video content that I release on YouTube that I don't post on Facebook or in the Facebook group, primarily the shorts. The live streams have kind of taken over here lately, but I do have some ideas for starting some more shorts. Oh, well, that's not good. There we go. Still, that Facebook stream. If somebody's watching us on Facebook, if you could please go ahead and comment, let me know so I can see if that's working or not. That would be great. But I think that's all of the intro stuff I have to do. So here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Todd Billiar. How you doing,
I don't
sir?
know all about that, man. The man, the myth, the legend. That might be building up a little. It's going to make me blush, but that's all right.
And he brings his own sound effects. I mean,
but you gotta, come on. A geek at heart like me, you gotta have sound effects.
That's the indication right there, right? I mean, that's what elevates you to legend status. If you bring your own sound. I don't have the cool blue lights. I don't have the cool blue lights like some people, but I'm working on it. There's going to be little LEDs inside the shelves behind me. So. Okay. Yeah. Well, you've got the set going on there.
Yeah. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. And, originally Todd agreed to do this, and he's like, dude, we live in the same city. Why don't we do this in person? And as much as I would have loved to do that, I'm just not that organized right now.
This is true. Well, not that you're not organized. Yes, I did offer. Next time.
Because between the two of us, we have more camera equipment than, I don't know, a lot of people.
Yes.
And so we certainly could have pulled it off in person.
Multicam, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
All right. So, but who we do need to welcome? Welcome to the viewers. I see we have some viewers online. I'd love to have the viewers, just so when I'm talking about talent, I can understand what markets they're in. I'd love to have them comment. Where are you watching from tonight?
Yep. And especially, if anybody's on Facebook, please just say hello, say hi, because that's the one where I haven't been able to test to see if the comments are coming through. And I want to make sure that, obviously, we're seeing your guys' comments come through.
Yep. So let's talk a little bit about talent. What do you think?
I think it's a great conversation because I don't know about you, but I'm seeing questions all over the place.
Right. Like you, I obviously we do a lot of shows. We see each other at a lot of shows. And when I'm doing these breakouts or I'm having the coffee conversations, the hallway conversations, and you ask these owners, what are some of the challenges you're facing today? Always talent, one of the top three. It's either, and it really these days it comes down to two things, three really. One, the scarcity of good talent to add to the team. Two, especially recently, the ever rising cost of keeping good talent. Talent's getting very expensive. And three, ties right into that. That's engagement and retention of good talent. And those are three really big pieces in a business. Because if you think about it in the MSP world, if you run an MSP and I run an MSP, you offer, a backup solution. I offer a backup solution. You offer Office 365. I offer Office 365. So what really truly differentiates one MSP from another? That's the team. It's the talent delivering the services. The face of your company. Talent is truly the most important part of any business, regardless of what line of work you're in. It's what sets one organization apart from another.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, especially in a services business, it really comes down to two things are the differentiators, in my opinion, and that's process and people. Now, the reason why the people are so important is, for me, twofold. Again, is they are probably your greatest expense, okay, number one. And they are what is in front of your customer, your client. And therefore, because they're the interface with your client, it's extremely important to have the right people in those seats.
Absolutely. And, I think that's a good way to segment to the first thing I want to talk about. And that was having a talent strategy plan. Most business owners, they've got that business plan, they've got that sales plan, and they're usually pretty well aligned and how they're going to grow the business that year. But what a lot of owners don't think about is having that talent strategy there. How many new bodies are you going to need to deliver as you you meet your sales delivery goals? How are you going to upscale your existing talent? What are you doing to engage your talent to retain them? So, every time you lose an employee, there's a significant cost to recruit and bring somebody in and get them on board and get them up to speed. So you really need, you need a talent strategy plan, and it really should be documented. It should be built out as part, during your annual planning sessions, because it's not just, all right, next month we're going to, add one body. Well, how are you going to attract the talent? How are you going to recruit the talent? How are you figuring out turnover? When you do have turnover, are you going to, build someone up, or are you just going to bring them in? I like to say, when it comes to adding talent, there's really three options. You can build it, you can buy it, or you can borrow it. You can build somebody up to fill that open role and fill in at a lower level. You can buy, which means you go out and you recruit somebody from the open market, or you can borrow. Maybe you don't need that role full time. Maybe you can look at bringing a contractor in for a little while.
Yeah. I mean, and I bet part of that plan, because that's a great idea. And I'll be honest, I never had one when I was an MSP, but I would imagine there's kind of two scenarios to that plan too, because you have to have your growth plan, like what you're budgeting for, what you're planning for in this coming year for how you're going to grow. But you probably need for lack of a better word, a disaster recovery plan for when you lose key employees.
Yep.
Because especially in a service business that can really touch a lot of critical systems for clients, that's not replacing somebody is not the easiest thing in the world, especially if they're not just, level 1 help desk. If they're level 2, level 3, or something like that. I imagine there's things that you can do to prepare in advance as part of your plan, right?
Oh, absolutely. As I like to say, always be closing, the old sales thing. But, you should always be recruiting, even if you don't have an open role. I like to say anybody who's a leader in any type of business should have their top 10 list. And what that is it's a list of 10 potential candidates, and keep in touch with them. Maybe they work for a competitor. Maybe they work at a big box store. Maybe you go to, Best Buy and you have a really great experience with one of their geeks. Well, you know what? Why not keep in touch with that? Get that person. Maybe you don't have it open today, or maybe they're not looking to make a jump. I'll tell you a story on my own. I've been with IT by Design 5 years. Sonny, the first time he approached me was 7 years ago and asked me if I wanted to join the team. And I wasn't ready to make a change, but he added me to his top 10 list. And then we saw each other over and over at events throughout the years. And that time came. We were at Evolve in Phoenix 5 years ago. In fact, it's 5 years ago this month. And he came up and we had breakfast. And you know what? I was ready to make that change. But he kept me on his top 10 list. He kept recruiting. And I've recruited a number of employees into IT by Design who I put on my top 10 list. Maybe we didn't have an opening, but I was keeping them warm. Hey, how things going over there? Or maybe they weren't ready. And I was sharing all the great things we're doing in-house at the company at IT by Design. And, I just kept them warm. But everyone should have a top 10 list. Maybe it's, one of my favorite ones I share with MSP owners, salespeople. How hard is it to recruit great sales people into an MSP? Every time you rent a car, every time, especially if you go to Enterprise has one of the best sales training programs. If you have a great experience, get that person's contact information. Maybe it's their business card. And then just, stay in touch, share what's going on with the company, invite them out to a cup of coffee, something like that. Keep in touch. Always be recruiting. Always have your top 10 list.
Yeah. And I'll tell a little funny story here about always be recruiting. Probably not a good example is when you're at a trade show, and maybe a trade show in Tennessee, and you've been drinking. Show's over, by the way, just to be clear. We don't have to work the next day. But a whole bunch of us end up at a Waffle House at 2:00 in the morning in Nashville, and we're all from different vendors, by the way, and we're all trying to recruit the manager of the Waffle House because he used to run Cat 5.
Nice. I think I know that Waffle House you're talking about too. Many MSP events have ended up after hours. That one.
Yes. If you know, you know.
So I want to pivot back real quick. You talked about when you lose an employee. And anyone who's been in a leadership position's been there. One of your top performing employees comes in and they resign. And you're like, oh, that's going to hurt. That's going to hurt a lot. And they walk out the door. So one of the things I brought into IT by Design was something I've actually stole the idea from the U.S. military. They have what they call their silver ticket and golden ticket program. And what that is, when you're A talent, some of your top performers, everybody, you want to see them do good. You want to see them try new things. Someone leaves who's really good. We use the golden ticket. So it's, here's a golden ticket. You know what? You can leave for up to a year. And if the grass isn't truly greener on the other side, you can come back. You'll be at the same exact pay you were at. We'll reinstate all of your seniority. We'll reinstate the vacation, everything. It's like you never left. And that does two things. One, I've been there. I've left an organization and I thought, man, that sucks. I wish I could go back. There's no way they'll take me back. And on the flip side, my employer is like, man, you know who I need right now? I need Todd right now. I need Todd. So it formally leaves that door open. And then the other key is when someone leaves, stay in touch. Add them to, start a Facebook alumni page for prior employers. Keep them in touch. Start an email list, distribution list for prior employees. Share the company newsletter and such with them. Invite them to company events. If they were a great employee, why not keep them as part of the family? And you'd be surprised how many times people come back. We've recovered I'd say 5 or 6 people in the last 18 months that ended up boomerang. That's where, the great resignation happened. They tried the grass on the other side, wasn't so green, and they came on back. And it was because of that golden ticket program.
Yeah. And, I'd never heard of that before. And I think that's a great idea because so many times, you kind of hit on it. People don't want to go crawling back. And that fixes that whole situation because it clearly and concretely shows the employer's willingness to take you back. Like,
absolutely.
They're not just saying it. They're actually giving you a piece of paper, a golden ticket that says, I really mean what I'm talking about. And if you want to take advantage of this, please do.
Yep.
And that's amazing. I think that's a great idea. Definitely something that MSPs, because tech talent, it's getting more and more scarce, right?
Absolutely.
And so if you find a good one and they have to leave, because it happens, right? It happens. and they realize that they go into a situation where promises were made and not kept, and because we've all been there, right? It gives them that option of coming back, and it's a really great way of doing that, I think.
Absolutely. Yep.
So let's kind of flip a little bit,
All
if
right.
you don't mind, and talk about maybe what to do when you have one of those employees that's not so great.
You know what? A toxic employee, if one that isn't good for the culture, there's two plays really. One, is it an ongoing behavior, or is it something's changed in the employee? So ongoing, we've all made bad hires. You know, it's you gotta cut bait soon because think about if they cost you a client or something, or they cost you one of those A players. They're like, oh, I'm out. I can't put up with this. Psh, I'm out. Cut bait. Obviously document everything on the way out, but they don't get that golden ticket. And learn from it. Hey, where did we miss during the interviewing session? Just like when you lose a sales deal, you don't just celebrate your wins. You want to analyze your losses so you can understand where did we go wrong. And in that interviewing process, hey, what did we miss? Was there a red flag there?
Yep.
The other one where you have a great employee, everything's going great, then all of a sudden you just started noticing, hey, why isn't Todd turning his camera on during the calls anymore? Todd's been late a lot, or Todd just doesn't, he used to be that high energy guy and he's just, he's showing up, he's low. That's not Todd. Grab that person, if they're local, take them out to lunch, get them out, just, hey, what's going on in your life? Find out what's going on. If they're remote, have that off the record kind of conversation. Hey, what's going on, buddy? Build a relationship with them. And I think a lot of that goes back to, make sure you're doing weekly one-on-ones. A lot of companies don't have those strong one-on-ones. And if you're a fast-growing organization where maybe you have a lot of first-time managers, for those one-on-ones, make sure you're training your leaders, because a bad leader will destroy an organization. They may not even want to be a bad leader, but what happens a lot of times, we've seen it, the top salesperson or the top engineer, all of a sudden they end up in a leadership position. Well, we've given them the sales training, we've given them all these technical certs and such, but have we really ever taught them how to be a leader? So make sure you're leading them the right way. Make sure that you're assigning them a mentor who can sit in on those one-on-ones, and maybe even have scripted out questions that they can ask during that one-on-one, so they can really start building a rapport with their teams. Have that rapport, because it's about having that relationship, because it's not a matter of if it's going to fall apart, not fall off the rails, it's when. But you want to have that relationship for it to come back. Everybody hits a bump in the road at some point.
Yep. And you mentioned one-on-ones, and one-on-ones are critical to building that rapport. And if you're not familiar with the concept of a one-on-one, a real one-on-one, by the way, because it's not just having a meeting with an employee once a week or whatever. There is a strategy to it, and there is a record-keeping portion of it. And if you want a good example, the one I prefer is at manager-tools.com. They have something called their triad, which is one-on-ones, feedback, and coaching. And definitely recommend you check out that resource. One of the things that I always consider when I'm thinking about my employees in general is I'm either managing them up or I'm managing them out. And that doesn't mean that somebody can't be great at a single role. It doesn't mean that they have to be promoted to a new role. I mean, there's plenty of, because there's level 1, there's level 2, there's level 3, there's, principal, there's, expert, you call them whatever you want, where they still deserve more pay because they're progressing in that role. Their expertise in that role is improving. So you're not always managing them to a different role, but it should always be, you're either improving them, making them even more efficient, valuable, whatever to the organization, or if they're not working out, you are actively managing them out. Now, that means you're not forcing somebody out, but you are, if they're not a right fit, you are finding out sooner rather than later that they are not a right fit. And helping them to figure out that they're not a right fit and helping them realize that they need to be someplace else. And openness and transparency to me is the way that you run an organization. And if you're doing it that way, I've had a lot of success in people that I had to let go, right? Because they just weren't the right fit. And by properly managing those, first of all, properly setting expectations and then managing those expectations is how you get there, right? And by the way, it's your fault. If they don't see it coming, it's not their fault, it's your fault.
Absolutely. Every employee should have a scorecard. Each and every employee at IT by Design has a scorecard that shows them, what is expected. What results are you expected to deliver? So there aren't those surprises. Another thing I think is critically important is to understand what a person's natural gifts are. It's you might not be managing them up to a senior level, and you might not be managing them out. But maybe you're identifying, hey, you know what? This guy's pretty good in front of the camera, or this guy's pretty good on social media. Maybe we have him in the wrong role, and move him to the right role. The old everybody, getting the right seat on the bus per se. I've been on a couple of seats over here at IT by Design through my career journey, and I actually, my history is I started out as a field tech for working for my first integrator, and I've kind of had my role transition, and people change over time, so. Maybe, finding out what seat on the bus they're ideally cut out for, and, what's going to get them excited to get up and come to the office every day and, really deliver. And I think a lot of that comes back to having that relationship, having those one-on-ones. Yep. At IT by Design, we actually use a product called Team GPS, and our one-on-ones are all scripted out exactly the type of questions that we need to ask our team. And like you said, there's a history of it, so we can go back and look at it over time. Because as a leader, you're doing your annual review of your team, and how far back does your memory really go? Yeah. You could think the last month or two, but think, if that person's going through that little dip that we just talked about, you got to be able to look back and look at that full history.
Yeah, and that's part of the managing it, right? You have to be able to look at where they are week to week. And by the way, an important concept about one-on-ones, they're not about you. They're about them.
Yep.
This is not about you waterfalling information to them and the like. It's about them having their time with you first and foremost. Now, obviously, you are going to share. You're going to talk about where they are with their expectations, but that's after they've had a chance to express themselves. And this is also where you find out about what they're passionate about outside of work, what makes them tick, outside of work. And that's really what helps build that rapport, right? When you find out more about them rather than just them as help desk technician number one.
Absolutely. I worked with an MSP based out of Ohio that, as people were being onboarded, he would find out what their hobbies were and what their goal outside of work was. Like he had a person join who wanted their private pilot license, and the guy came in and just crushed it year one, just was a top performer. So at the end, during the review period, the MSP actually paid for his private pilot license for the next year, paid for the airtime. I mean, that's awesome. When I used to work for a prior employer, during our onboarding process, when you went on the on-call rotation, we would ask you what your significant other's favorite restaurant was. And if we called you out and you were away from the home for an hour or more outside of business hours, we sent home a gift card to the favorite restaurant because we want to make sure your family stays happy. Yep. Because, it's all part of it. I know we're ticking through that. Another piece I really want to talk about is engagement, development, and recognition, because that's key. LinkedIn a couple of years back did a survey. They asked 10,000 LinkedIn members who had changed jobs in the previous 6 months, what was the number one reason you changed jobs? You want to take a guess?
Well, I'm going to guess it's not pay.
You are correct. That wasn't even top 5.
I would probably say it was their manager.
That was number 2.
Close.
Lack of recognition. So are you recognizing your employees? Even just walking up and saying good job, or giving them a shout out if somebody closed more tickets than anybody on a monthly basis. Give them a shout out. Hey, great job, Eric. You closed X number of tickets this month. And at your company R&R, rewards and recognition, call people out, give them a gift card. If say somebody does a recruits somebody, refers someone to the business, and they hire and they last the 90 days, why not give them a nice bonus? Give them a $250 Amazon gift card or something, and don't just slide it to them. Give them recognition. Hey, Eric recruited, Steve. Steve's killing it for us. Thank you, Eric. Here's your gift card. Because you know what happens? Todd's on the other side of the room going, I like shopping at Amazon. I know some pretty good people. And guess what? Now we're back to that funnel. Always be recruiting.
Yep.
And put a peer-to-peer. It shouldn't always just be managers or leaders down. Put a system in place that allows peer-to-peer recognition, so that when Todd and Eric are, sitting in the help desk pounding away tickets, and Todd looks over and sees Eric just crushing it, I can give him a little shout out that people can say, hey, Eric's killing it on the old help desk today. Let's give him a big round of applause, something like that. Or if you're in a sales organization, do a little shout out. Eric just closed a big deal. Let's give him a big woo woo, a little air horn even. So, make sure that people are recognized for what they're bringing to the table. It makes a big difference. I guess I'll let you respond there, and then we'll go into development, because that's another big piece of engagement.
No, and I think, one of the things that happens in especially smaller business, which let's, call it what it is. Most MSPs are smaller businesses. We tend to not do a lot of formal recognition. Even good small MSPs, it tends to be, for me, by the way, it was taking everybody out to lunch, probably more times a week than I should have. But that's what my team liked. But I didn't have, and this is the piece that Todd is really talking about, is making it formal, making it a real process so that it's fair and that it makes sense. It actually builds into a strategy. He talked about kind of making the other person jealous to hire or to recommend other people in order to get what he didn't get. There's strategy behind that. And if you have a process, you put some thought behind it, it becomes a strategy, and it becomes even more effective than just the recognition itself.
Yeah, and if you use some kind of platform, be it Bonusly or here at IT by Design we use Team GPS, you can actually gamify it. And here we are, Todd and Eric's on the help desk again. Man, Eric got 8 shout outs. I'm only at 6. I better work a little harder. I'm gonna beat him this month. You gamify it, and people will work a little harder and really go the extra distance, because they want to be, who doesn't want to be on top of the list, Before we run out of time here, I know we're ticking away. Let's talk about career development plans. So especially, when it comes to engineer and technical types, everyone wants to learn something new. It's just part of our wiring. I cannot encourage those watching, those listening at a later time. Make sure that it's part of your onboarding and even part of your annual review process that you're writing out career development plans. Where's the employee today? Where do they want to be a year from now? And it should be aligned with the company. And then you don't just hold the employee responsible, you hold their supervisor responsible to make sure that career development plan is moving forward. And again, that's one of the things that can be reviewed during those one-on-ones. What type of resources do we need to get you? How's that coming along? How's that new certification coming along? Things like that. That people know their value, that they're not just another number in the system, that you're investing in them, and you see them as value. Hey, look who's up in the chat. Keith Nelson.
I see that.
It's Father Keith. How you doing, brother? So, always be developing your talent. That's one of the keys to keeping them. And it goes right there to, alongside the recognition when they do get that new certification. Make sure you're giving them a shout out. People work hard on those things.
And I'm going to interrupt us right here for a second to mention CoreView. CoreView is one of our elite sponsors here at All Things MSP. if you need to manage, monitor, and govern your Microsoft 365 instances, check out CoreView. They have a solution for doing that that's going to keep you aligned across all of your clients. Check them out at atmsp.link/CoreView.
Actually, Keith just threw a good point in there, and it kind of jarred my memory. They're going all the way back to the beginning of the conversation about recruiting good talent. Keith talked about going to check with the local CUNY colleges. In California, training is free while you're employed. Back when I used to run a 60-person help desk for an MSP, and I actually built relationships with the instructors at the local community colleges and the Career Institute type places. And I used to go over and I'd talk, and I welcomed their employees to come over and get some real life experience inside my help desk so they could see how an MSP or an integrator ran. And the instructors always kind of let me know who were the top performers in that. And I had a pipeline of great talent rolling into my help desk. They generally would stay on the help desk about 2 years, start at that level 1, move their way up, and then we moved them either to a more senior level in the help desk, or they went off, became a project/field type engineer. It was a great pipeline for bringing good talent in. It jarred my memory. Another tip, those of you watching, you're going to want to write this one down. This is another good one, but don't tell anyone where you got it. So, have you ever been to, a trade show, or you're going out shopping and you get by a local store and you're browsing your Facebook, and all of a sudden you're seeing ads for businesses around you or the event you're at? That's called a geo-targeted ad. And what you can actually do is you can geo-target, your competitor. You're like, hey, they got some good talent. You can actually run ads, geo-target at their office. So when people are browsing their Facebook or their Instagram or whatever it may be, they'll actually see a geo ad looking for a new role, looking to move up, looking for new opportunity. Because all you got to do is have that person have one bad day. And they're like, what's that about? And then you send them to a landing page, you drop a cookie on them, and then you put them into your Google ads, and they're just constantly seeing your company. And now, one day they're going to have that bad day, and they're going to be like, let me go check this out. You can actually recruit some really good talent that way. Cost you next to nothing.
Yep. And, Keith's comment on he was going to check local community colleges, that worked really well for me. I got most of my best help desk technicians from the local community college. So definitely a good place to check. And then another idea that Keith gave was that getting involved in teaching gives you a great pipeline, and you don't have to teach full time, right? A lot of times colleges are looking for people to just teach one class because they need your expertise, right? A lot of community colleges are teaching classes to get towards CompTIA certification. And that's definitely something that, most of us either have or would probably qualify for, probably take the test and pass it pretty easily. I don't know, because I took mine so many moons ago. Like back when you actually had to wire power supplies so they didn't kill somebody, right?
Yep. Yep. When I was running that large help desk, every Thursday afternoon during lunch, I actually had a senior level engineer come in, and we would run classes. And I had folks, get their CCNA while they were sitting on my help desk. And it was all live instruction by, I had a couple of CCIEs working within the company. And they would come in and teach these entry-level classes, and then people just kept moving up. It's a great way to develop your talent. Use your resources.
Yeah, and
any other? Oh, go ahead.
No, go. Please, you're the guest.
I was just going to throw it out. We have some folks watching and see if there's any other questions. Anything related to talent, folks, please throw your questions out. I am happy to share my knowledge. I've been in this industry since I'm really going to date. Let's just put it this way. My first certification was a certified Novell netware engineer cert. So been around a little while. But for like the last 10 years, I've been focused exclusively on MSP talent.
Yep.
So I'd love to answer some questions.
I never, so Novell wasn't a thing for me. Because I was back then, because we probably got into this about the same time, I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
So I was actually doing Lantastic networks, if you remember those,
I do.
because Novell was too pricey for the clients that I was serving, and this was before, you could just have a Windows box that would network itself, right?
Right.
So yeah, just a lot of stuff has changed. Todd's seen like all of the transitions, that this industry has gone through, and now is such an interesting time. We've had a lot of just crazy stuff happen the last couple of years, and the dynamics have changed. And in our industry alone, just the M&A activity is causing a lot of strange stuff in terms of workforce and talent. So
It's interesting to see, with talent being so tight. I talked to some of these, mid and larger size MSPs, and they are literally buying other MSPs just for the access to the talent.
yeah,
That's how tight the market was. Still is for good talent. I like to tell people, anyone who, good talent is only unemployed as long as good talent wants to be unemployed. I don't know what the recent number was, but prior to this most recent downturn, there were 6 openings for every computer engineer out there. 6.
yeah, it's crazy.
Yep.
Of course, it's crazy to think that I never actually did any computer engineering, even though I have a computer engineering degree. But it's because I started right out of college with my break fix business and never looked back.
Electrical engineering never wired up that power supply like you, brother.
Yeah. So Keith also said something else that I think is important, because it talks about this industry in general. He sponsored an MCSE class for some special needs students at a local high school. So many people in this industry. I mean, that's why Todd is doing this at night when he should be doing other things. This is why I run this whole channel. I don't do this for money. I don't charge for this stuff. IT by Design did not sponsor this live stream, and I didn't ask them to. That's not why I do this. We do this because we love it. And if you're out there and you're not sure where you want to go career-wise, find somebody. We'll have a conversation with you. We'll pick up the phone.
Absolutely.
This industry, in my opinion, is very unlike a lot of others because we are so sharing. And I don't mean that in a, fluffy kind of, sharing is caring kind of way. But it really is true. So many people in this industry are in it for the greater good. And so, people like Keith doing that sponsorship, people like Todd coming on, and all my other guests that I've had on are just a prime example of that.
Absolutely. I've never seen an industry where people are so open and willing to share their knowledge, their experience, their connections. It's a great community to be a part of.
Awesome.
Awesome.
So yeah, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and post those. Todd is, more than willing to answer them. Todd,
I was just going to say,
else?
if you're watching the replay and people want to get a hold of me, go to LinkedIn, Google Todd Billiar. I'm literally the only one. You will find me. Promise.
Yeah. And probably if you add the word MSP, not even a question about it, he will definitely be the number one that pops up.
Yes.
Same thing with me, by the way. Just Eric, Anthony, MSP. Yeah. If you don't find me, there's something broken with that algorithm.
Yes.
Because I've tried. I work hard on this stuff. Let's see. I'm just looking through the comments, see if there is anything that we haven't covered. So, like, some of the takeaways, and I'm going to fill in some, and then you, because I know you'll remember all the ones that I'm forgetting.
All right.
But if you don't have a process for always being recruiting, right? Like Todd talked about, make sure you build a process for that. Make sure you're doing one-on-ones and you know how to provide feedback and you know how to coach. Okay. Those are critical elements for any manager, no matter what business you're in. You have to be doing those. Another one that's big on my list is annual reviews. Annual reviews don't start at the end of the year. They start at the beginning of the year with setting expectations that you then cover in every single one of your one-on-ones, so that when you get to the annual review at the end of the year, nobody is surprised. And if you get halfway through the year and you've been talking to them every week about how they're not meeting expectations, it's not a surprise when you start telling them about how they're, not probably going to be here long unless something changes, right? You can solve a lot of hard feelings and a lot of hard conversations, really, if you are upfront, you set expectations, and you're managing those expectations properly. Now, Todd, I know there are a couple of things that you mentioned that I did not just mention. So if you would go over those, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. And I got a bonus tip here at the end for as well. So your people are your number one asset. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Regardless of the line of work, especially in a service-focused business, your people are the most important asset you have. Take care of them as such. Two, touching on Eric's note about annual reviews, make sure you have documented career development plans and scorecards. If you need templates, reach out to me. I'll share them with you. I'm happy to. And three, here's that bonus tip I was ready to share. If you are a medium size or larger size MSP, and I'm talking even, at that 12, 15 employees, if you think about it, you have a platform for keeping, track of your tickets and such, your PSA. You have a platform for managing your devices, alerts and such. That's your RMM. You have a platform for managing your money. You have some kind of financial package, be it QuickBooks Online or whatever it is. You need a platform for proactively taking care of your talent. Find a talent management platform. At IT by Design, we use Team GPS. People are the most important. Invest in it. Put a system in place that brings all that together. And the cost savings from reduced employee turnover will more than pay for the cost of the platform.
Yep, for sure. And I think one last note from Keith here.
Yep.
Make sure that your employees don't burn out. Make sure they have a life outside of work. This does a couple of things. Number one, burnout's real, especially in this business. And even more so once you bring security into it, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
But if you are proactively talking to them about work-life balance, they will understand how much you care about not what you're doing for them, but you as an individual, the employee as an individual. So just, make sure you're doing that. That's why we talk about one-on-one so much. And besides that, Todd, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we can get you back later on in the year.
Absolutely. Happy to. And this next time we're doing it side by side.
Okay.
We're bringing the cameras. We're going to have a little switcher. And we're going to do it like you've never done it before. We're going to be side by side.
Okay. Sounds good. Other than that, make sure that whatever platform you're watching on, you like, you subscribe, you do all the Facebook things, all the YouTube things, whatever it is. And until next time, just hit us up. If you have questions, ask. We love to answer them.
Yep.
All right. Talk to you later.